Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Backstage with Ian and Joel. Looking forward to this one today. Make sure you like and subscribe at Backstage with Ian and Joel on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Substack, and wherever you find audio podcasts. I think we got ourselves figured out in all those spots. How you doing, Joel?
Doing all right, man. Yeah, this is going to be great. I'm excited about this because I have a bit of a history here, and also, I grew up in the early '80s and punk scene. I was 13 in like 1981 when I first got into it. So, but I'm really excited about I like what Vic's doing now, and
Yeah,
the song "Sun Gods" is like so infectious. I play it over and over, and
I know. I was listening to it today.
yeah, so good. And
Yeah, that's on
yeah,
the new album that came out in May on
yeah,
Alternative Tentacles, Vic Bondi and his issues. It's awesome. I listened to it. It's
yeah,
great.
and I really think someone who's with his history is gonna, you know, it'll just be interesting to see, about some of these questions that we ask a lot of people about, but from his perspective, it's going to be cool. I'm really
For
excited.
sure. All right, well let's not waste any more time. Let's
Yeah,
bring the man in here. Vic, welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks for having me.
Awesome.
yeah, absolutely.
Joel has kind of a funny
Yeah.
story. When I told him that you were going to be on, he was like, "Wait, what?"
It's true. Well, I'll get right to it. Like, I'm from Pomona, California, so inland from LA, like 30 miles, 25 miles. And we had a shop there in the early 80s to mid 80s, maybe late 80s, called Toxic Shock Records. You probably remember it. Yeah, Bill Sassenberger, he's a super awesome guy. Anyway, we had a fanzine that started out of there called Brainstorm Fanzine. And you guys were like our featured band, really. And I was 15 years old when I wrote for this fanzine. And so I was there. It was like a bunch of us that went down to see you guys.
In
And
El Monte.
in El Monte, thank you.
Oh, damn.
This is what I was hoping. I was hoping you could help me because I could not for the life of me remember the town because it wasn't in LA and it wasn't in Pomona. It was like halfway in between.
It was in a club that was split in half. I think we were playing downstairs and upstairs was a Mexican disco, or it was the other way around. I don't remember, but it was like
Yes.
yeah.
Holy shit, that memory. Damn.
Yeah.
What a great memory. He's correct though. It was. And I think we were on the bottom floor maybe. But yeah, and I remember we were go out and I think the interview took place in the van, maybe in a tour van.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of these bands on the cover that that are listed here with you were kind of interviewed at the same venue when they came through. And I forget who else was on that tour with you guys.
I don't remember who played that show besides us.
Yeah, I don't either right now. But anyway, this is a funny thing, man, because the last time we're interviewing you today, and the last time I interviewed you, I was 15 years old.
40 years later.
Yeah, no big deal.
No big deal.
It was like, all right, that's gonna be super cool. But yeah, super happy to be doing this again with you. Like I said, I really dig the Sun Gods and the new record. I've been playing it a lot. So how has it been for you lately?
It's been great. I mean, this is vinyl record number 27.
Damn.
Right.
Not counting singles, right? So yeah. I mean, it's it's kind of great. Also not counting compilations. So
Okay.
Right.
The 27th record I put out. Very excited to have it out. We're playing a lot. We're playing tomorrow night here in Seattle at Slim's. Really great
Nice.
all-day festival called the Hillbilly Headbangers Ball, and we've got a couple of surprises for people tomorrow.
Cool.
And yeah, and in this band also, this is the first band that I've been in where I'm playing the back catalog. So I'm playing Articles of Faith songs, Jonesberry songs, Alloy songs, Report Suspicious Activity songs, Dead Ending songs, Redshift songs.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, Redshift even.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool. And this album's on Alternative Tentacles. I know you've been affiliated with that label for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I had a question when I was like doing my research a little bit on this. You've been with them for a very long time. Can you maybe talk to somebody who's coming up about how important it might be to have the backing of a label, or how having a label like helping you out?
Well, I don't know how important it is anymore. I mean, the process of getting music out now is a lot different than when we started.
Yeah,
right?
that's
I mean,
kind of what I was.
when I started playing music, the only way to get music out was to put out a vinyl record.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, you can go up to my Bandcamp site.
Yep.
If I have a brain fart tonight, and I can record it and stick it up on Bandcamp tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Like, like that's you can put any amount of music out you want. I still, for me, because I'm an old timer, it doesn't feel real to me unless I go into a studio. I mean, I have a functional studio here at the house, but I don't. I feel like I need to go into a studio. This record we did at Sound House here in Seattle with Mike Sebring, and then we sent it off to Bill Stevenson to mix, and he did an amazing job.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
And but I don't feel like it's a real record unless we go in, we set up the drums, we track everything, then we do the mix, right? Like, and also it's kind of important for me not to do my own mixing. I mean, the crap that I have up on Bandcamp, I'll mix myself, but you have to have somebody else's, another pair of ears listening to you to, help sort out stuff a little bit and make sure you've got the tones right, you've got the vocals right. One thing I like about working with Jay Robbins is every time Jay's worked with me, he's been telling me how badly I sing. So I have that corrected in there. He does it in a nice way, but
I was gonna say, do you take the wind out of your sails, or?
Well, at my age, you get a big head, right? So,
yeah, mine seemed to get bigger.
And kind of, I would imagine there's a different mindset that you get in recording at home in your home studio. Maybe it's more relaxed and casual, but when you're in the studio, there's other people who've taken time out of their day to be there. Other people are depending on you to not fuck around. You're spending money. Like there's a lot more. I don't know if it's maybe pressure, but there's a lot more riding on it than when you're just at home, just kind of messing around.
Thinking around. Yeah. I mean, but the flip side of that is you can occasionally create something at home and you like it so much, it's almost impossible to reproduce. So on the new record, there's a song Strata. I've had this song since 2010 and I did it at home and I loved what I did at home. I first tried to get Report Suspicious Activity to do it, and they couldn't pull it off. I tried when we did the AOF reunion, I tried to give AOF that song, and we couldn't pull it off.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't find, amongst the bands that I've been in, I couldn't find someone who could recreate what I liked in that demo. The demo's up on the Bandcamp site.
Yeah.
I liked it so much, and this was the first band where I pulled that song out. And we actually managed to get it right, or get it close enough to the original that I was happy with it. So
were you able to kind of suss out what it was about the demo that you were trying to get to that you couldn't quite get?
Well, I think it was just the demo has really multi-layered guitars, and the album doesn't actually. It's got, I think it's just got Fred playing rhythm and me just doing leads on the first take. I think it was the first take. I think it was just, it was kind of inspired, and but I couldn't get that same. I had a very specific sort of thing I wanted to do with the lead guitar on that song, and I couldn't get it in any of the other bands. And in this one, Fred is the lead guitarist in our band, but on this song, I did the lead, and I was I need to do it.
That's cool. Well, it's almost like that song became like a child or something. It's how many, you said 2010, it's a 16-year-old song, and you kind of feel like you had to get it across the finish line. That's cool.
And it's very rare for me. Like I don't usually work over songs, right? Like when I was working with Morello, he holds on to songs for years actually, and he actually just pinged me because he wants to do something with songs we had worked on 30 years ago. I think he's going to do another round with somebody with those same songs, and he wanted to know if I still had them on tape. Like I don't ever do that. I mean, my thing is like I'll write a song, I'll record it, and like let's move on to the next thing. I almost never hold on to a song or really work it over. It's all, it's usually a 2-hour burst of writing, and I will write all of the music and all the lyrics in one fell swoop. And usually if I'm at home, I'll record it at home, and then that's it. That's the song. And then, with Redshift and with Vic Bondi and his issues, I'll bring it, well, with all the bands I've been in, I'll bring it in and I'll go with changes to it that other guys suggest and modify it, because that's part of the joy of music, is playing with other people and getting their input and their feedback and getting what they bring to something originally. Like, these guys are always bringing stuff to the table that I'm playing with right now. So you listen to Fred's solo on When I'm 64. My God, it was amazing. That's the second take. The first take he did in the studio was kind of metalish, kind of AC/DC. I'm like, nah, something more rockabilly. And he just goes in, punches it in, boom, done. Right.
Yeah.
So, you want to, the joy of playing with other guys, other people, is that they'll bring something that you weren't expecting, even to something that you wrote. And that's part of the fun of it. So, this is very much a collaboration. These are all my songs, but the band here put this together, and it's a very good band. It's awesome. It's a great band to play with. So,
oh yeah, there we go.
All right.
Anyway, the band is Fred Speakman on guitar, Adam Dahlquist on drums, and Tully Potter on bass. And
okay, I have a picture here. I'm hoping this is an updated.
Yeah. No, that's the band. That's
cool.
It was 3 weeks ago, playing in San Francisco at the Alternative Tentacle Fest.
Awesome.
Okay.
And, that was a hell of a show. It was really a lot of fun. And then we all had to get back to go to work. That was on a Saturday night. So, I mean, the minute the show was over, we're in the van and we're driving back. So,
yeah.
But, again, like part of the joy of being a working musician is, these sort of transcendent moments you get on the road. So we were passing Mount Shasta right at sunrise, and it was just incredible. It was just amazing. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Those I know those moments you're talking about from when I used to be a tour manager, and it's like even touring in a bus versus like being in a van and having to drive yourself. Like one time I remember we were trying to get to North Carolina, and I was crossing through South Carolina like at dawn. That's the way the sun came up between all the pines there and stuff. And it was just like, it's just this like hyper realistic moment that you can't even imagine until you witness it. It's very cool.
When you're on the midnight to 8 shift driving too, and you're on shotgun, some of those conversations can get pretty freaking intense too.
Yes. Some of the absolute, that's how people bond. And, I think through these kind of times, like I remember some of the people I've bonded with in the past have been a lot of that has been because of long driving shifts.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a question for you. I wanted to ask you, so in the live music world, as we're talking about, has changed a lot over time, I think, at least somewhat, maybe not the core. But I was wondering if you're seeing any positive signs from younger generation of fans, bands, people that put on shows. Are you, what do you see any differences in the way like DIY shows are, with younger involved?
Well, DIY. Well, I just played the show up in Vancouver with the slip-ons. That was pretty DIY at this club called what was it, Green Car Auto or something. It was it had been a converted auto repair shop, right?
Oh, cool.
And it was really a good show. And I mean, it was rock, and the slip-ons were so great. They were the ones that invited me up, and I played solo acoustic. We didn't play with the band on that occasion.
Oh, okay.
But it was pretty DIY and pretty fun. I mean, the thing is, the 1981 punk thing really set DIY in motion, and it's never disappeared, right?
Right.
I mean, we were very part of it was that we couldn't get into clubs. A lot of clubs wouldn't have us in Chicago, and so we started putting on our own shows at the Central American Social Club. And there was record labels weren't going to put out punk rock, so you made your own records and you put them out. In Chicago, we had a record label we called Wasteland Records. Records on that, so you would just do it yourself. Our attitude was kind of like, well, you don't want to have us, fuck you, we'll do it ourselves, and I think that spirit has never gone away.
Yeah,
it's always been there, and you still see a lot of that. And the other thing about punk rock, it's gateway drug for musicians, because you don't have to be super technical, you don't have to be adept at anything. You can just get up there and start yelling, and it works, right? And part of it is your attitude, and part of it is your sheer gumption, your willingness to endure ridicule, whatever it is. Right? You have that with punk rock, and you don't have it with other stuff, right? Like my daughter's a musician in New York, but my daughter, she went to school, she studied jazz, she knows how to read everything, right? Like whole different dimension of music, right? And it's definitely not like what I've learned. I mean, I'm completely untutored, unschooled musician. I taught myself how to play guitar. I never took never took a lesson in my life. But and I wish I knew how to read music, but I have no clue. I don't know how to do it. So I think what's great about punk, and you see it a lot, young folks are still doing it, because it's one of the easiest ways to get into it, and it should be, and it should be easy. And if you want to go from punk into alt country or jazz or whatever you want to do, and you want to build your skills and go in a different direction, that's fine too. Like nobody needs to stay in one place. That's boring,
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And punk is a great gateway just into the whole world. I mean, that's why when like a lot of this podcast is about working and behind the scenes and live events and stuff, but we reference punk shows because Ian and I both started from that, but also B, it's just we're trying to like let kids know that maybe anyone that's like trying to chase the whole we got to get our band into this on this show or whatever, just throw your own shows in your backyard.
In your backyard, start in your garage. We put on, AOF had the Hardcore House in Chicago. It was this building called Big Blue. The bass player Dave Shield and I worked on a rehab crew for this landlord in Chicago, and so he had this building, this absolute abomination of this wreck of a building in Wrigleyville that had this big blue siding, vinyl siding on the side, and it was a 3-story building, and the top floor was this common attic space, and we occupied that with the band, and that was where we rehearsed. But we started putting shows on there, and then we found this place up on Broadway called the Central American Social Club that was owned by these Hondurans, and we would rent that and put our shows on, right? We would do the whole thing. The sound equipment we would rent, the lights we would rent. The door we would man with our friends. You know, we'd fade out everybody.
Yep.
Everybody's cleaning up. Everybody's helping us clean up, man. Like, you know,
Yep.
it was a community thing. And there's still, that's happening everywhere in America every day right now.
Yep.
Because first of all, you know, music is always about community anyway, and it's bringing you together. So it's a very small step from going to a show and somewhat passively participating as an audience member to being an active participant as you put on shows yourself or as you be in bands yourself. Hell, I mean, like 9 times out of 10, when you go to shows, half the people in the audience are musicians in their own right anyway, because people who love music, who love to listen to music, naturally will then gravitate to making it themselves. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be pretty good.
Yep. And I think there's no better school. Like, you couldn't even get this at the Berklee School of Music than putting on a DIY show yourself and going through and learning all of the skills, all of the jobs, cleanup, working the door, load in, all of that shit, and promotion. That's so invaluable.
Don't stick that mic in the center of the speaker, man.
But you got to go through that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who starts out in a DIY space, like, because the stakes are a little lower, you're not like you don't want to, like, so for me, when I started out as a concert promoter, I had no fucking clue what I was doing. My dad had been in like music in Seattle and stuff, and my parents encouraged me to like go to shows. My sister was in a punk band. I was like, well, I suck at music, so what can I do? I just started doing it, and Joel worked at the first club I ever did a show at, and I thought I fucking failed big time. And he was so nice to me, told me how bands get settled out and how everything gets paid and all that shit. I just kept doing it. I kept fucking shit up, not doing it right. But I learned a lot, and I think it's just the way you got to do it. And it's fun to try all this shit. And like I said, the stakes are a little lower when you're setting up a show at a house than it is renting a club for $5,000 and trying to put a big show on, which is, it sounds dumb, but that's what I wanted to do. I called Rancid's agent and said, hey, can I book Rancid? I was 18 years old. And she's like, no. You're an idiot. She didn't say that. She's very nice. But
I played with those guys before they were big. Like, so everything is, you know, and we played some dumpy ass bar in Sacramento, right? Like everybody starts somewhere. And if you risk nothing, you gain nothing. Right. So.
Right.
Yeah, we want to encourage people to just take chances, get out there, build community. If you don't have a venue, fucking put a show on in your backyard. Ask a band from out of town to come play a show.
What is that? You've got that Make Space up in Bellingham?
Yeah, Makeshift up here.
Makeshift, yeah.
Yep, Kelly books that spot, and that's a great spot. They have a radio station. They have band practice spaces. It's a really, really cool space.
Yeah.
Then in Tacoma, there's Real Art that does a lot of cool stuff.
Really hot space to play, man. Well, you could use some air conditioning in that space.
Yeah. And in Seattle, we got Vera Project. So there's some really cool spots up in the Northwest doing some cool stuff, in Black Lodge now. And then they're working on that other space in South Seattle too. So lots of cool spots.
I wanted to say with that, and the fact that there are places for young kids to start out, you know, which a lot of places, like, I don't want to do the whole in my day, but you know, in our day we didn't have that as much. How would you say like the mechanics of being in a band, getting shows, doing all that, how's it changed since when you started, and to what significance?
Well, I mean, I know a lot of people who did very well in the music business, right? So when we were starting, you know, again, hardcore and punk, they couldn't get a handhold on anything in rock and roll. This is the day of Toto and Foreigner, and you know, I mean, none of that is, you know, Pablo Cruz. None of that is Supertramp. None of that's going to translate into punk rock, right? So you couldn't get into the clubs, and you couldn't get a record deal to save your life. But I think we had this sense of ourselves as a insurrectionary movement, and there was a confidence that we had that eventually we would take over the music business. And we didn't really take over the music business, but we infiltrated it enough that we could make an impact on it, right? Like, and you know, if it weren't for the Dead Kennedys and Black Flag and DOA and Articles of Faith, there would have never been Nirvana, and there would have never been Nine Inch Nails, and there never would have been Rage Against the Machine. And it wasn't just that the music set a precedent, it was that all the people that were part of that scene by 1990 have moved into the music industry, and they're working for Reprise, or they're working for Atlantic. I mean, I was at the Roseland Ballroom in New York City when Ahmet Erdogan came down to try to sign Fugazi, right? I mean, we became part of that industry, and then that industry became very successful. So, you know, I do know, you know, Bob Mould, Dave Perner, Tom Morello, Dave Grohl, people who've become phenomenally successful in music. And a part of it was because they came out of that scene, but also there's people behind the scenes, Joe Lenardi and Julie Panabianco and these other folks that were working with records labels that helped made this happen, right? So that little scene that we had crafted in the early 80s became part of the mainstream music industry. And so now it's quite successful. And, you know, I mean, you know, Soundgarden was playing huge shows. And, you know, I was, your show's about backstage. I can tell you stories of going backstage at the Key Arena when Soundgarden opened up for Aerosmith and what that was like. Right? Like they, you know, we became part of that whole thing. And so now what's interesting is it's past that cycle. So there's a lot of rock music being made now that doesn't have a direct connection to that moment in time anymore, because you're 2 generations removed from it, honestly. But what you do have is you have a lot of graybeards that own clubs and are still putting on shows. You know, there's you guys up in Bellingham. There's Ian down at McCoy's in Olympia, right? There's all these folks propagated all over the country who came out of that scene, and they're still part of it. They love the scene so much they went on to become bar no a record label or a music store or a music rental firm, right? It's still out there and it's still vibrant. No matter how old you get, if music grabbed you when you were 20, it's going to still have hold of you when you're 60.
And you know, I just saw Ramblin' Jack Elliott just posted he played a show recently, and that guy's like 90 something and he's still going. So I mean,
but, my wife is like, when are you going to stop playing music? I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen.
You know, I had a question. So you said when you guys were all starting the scene in the early 80s that you wanted to infiltrate the industry. Did you have an awareness of that this was a music industry? Was that just like,
yeah, like, we wanted to, you know, there were the horror stories of John Fogerty having his back catalog stolen from him, or you know, the Temptations, right? Like the Four Tops, right? There were so many people who had been ripped off by the industry that you kind of wanted to establish a better set of practices. And, you know, you have Discord Records is still there, and so is Alternative Tentacles. And, you know, these record labels that came out of that scene, we're still doing the same business practices at AT now that they were doing in 1982, right? Wow. It's like, it's a handshake. My word is bond. Here's the deal, right? After costs, we'll split it, right? Like there was no, the intention was to set up a more sustainable practice that rewarded the musicians in the business as opposed to people who were bankers and saw it as an investment.
That's awesome.
Do you think also coming from the kind of underground and punk scene and stuff, do you think maybe helps people kind of be more aware of how things work behind the scenes versus, you know, someone, you know, if you've never had to self-manage versus, you know, people that have had to, like, for instance, you know, like in I guess I'm referring to the early days of punk, like when I was coming up in like 81, 82, like I remember just hearing stories about getting ripped off, and then other places that where you always got treated right, and I kind of feel like a lot of the people from my generation that got into followed music, whether it became a career behind the scenes or being in a band, they seem to be more aware, like, of what can happen, versus
Well,
not.
I think we set a bar for integrity that I feel like I still practice, and people I respect still practice. There's lots of people that don't practice it, right? But
Sure.
I mean, getting ripped off, right? Like the way this worked in the old days is still the way that I have it, right? So, for example, we played a show with the Dead Kennedys at the Metro in Chicago. AOF did, and these guys stole our gear halfway through the show, and then people were screaming, "Oh, they're lowering their shit down the fire escape!" And we go and we run to the back of the fire escape, and sure enough, these guys are like trying to haul our amplifiers down the fire escape. And so then when we go to mob them, they just drop everything, and they destroyed my amplifier. Right? It fell 2 stories and shattered into pieces. The Dead Kennedys gave us part of their payout. Right?
Yeah.
Or there was the night that AOF played with Husker Du on a really brutal winter night in Minneapolis, and there was like 8 people in the club, and like we had driven all the way from Chicago for this, and so the bar owner decided he wouldn't pay us, but he paid Husker Du because they were the hometown guys, right? So so I'm getting all pissed off, and I'm up in this guy's face, and I'm ready to fight him. And Bob's like grabbing me and pulls me out the door, and he's like, "Dude, this is a mob bar, man. You do not want to mix it up with those guys." And then he gave me what they gave him, right?
Wow.
So, that's the rule, right? There are some rules about integrity that you have here, and you need to abide them. I mean, I think it's super important to conduct yourself with a certain amount of honesty and integrity. And if you don't, I'll never work with you again. I mean, if you say what you're going to do and you do it, that's fair. If you say what you're going to do and you don't do it, or you scam it, or you rip it off, you don't pay the bands, or you don't do the publicity, then I'm not going to work with you again. I may keep it to myself. I'm not in the habit of bad mouthing people.
Right.
But I mean, there's a big capitalist world that rewards ripoffs, but it's not going to be part of the world that I live in.
Yeah.
No, that's huge. And that's kind of part of what we want to do with this podcast, is just kind of let people know, and we're not going to prevent people from getting ripped off. We're not going to prevent people from making mistakes or anything like that, but we're just trying to share some of our experiences and other people who've had those experiences, so that maybe, they're not going to make the mistake that I did, where I lost $5,000 on a show, and I'm sitting on the sidewalk like, what the fuck did I do that for? Because, at that point in my career, I was able to weather that storm. But if that had been my very first show I produced, I would have been completely ruined and gone to work at McDonald's or something, and just totally left music and been disheartened and frustrated.
Tom told me that when they did the first Lollapalooza, that did not go well at all financially, and so then Rage waived their fee so that Golden Voice wouldn't lose their shirts.
Oh,
right?
wow.
They could have basically destroyed what became Lollapalooza by being assholes, but Tom's not an asshole, so
right.
Yeah. I think if you operate as best you can from an honest place, and you explain what's going on, whether you're in a band or you're not, or you're running a club or whatever, people understand shit happens. Like you were saying, you played a show to 8 people. That's not your fault. The fucking weather, sometimes it causes, nobody wants to go out if it's fucking negative 20 degrees, and you can't predict that 2 months ahead of time.
Yep.
But I think if everybody's just operating from a position, or at least attempting to understand everybody's position and being honest about shit, it's like shit happens, but like honor your agreements and communicate. So
and if you screw up and you owe somebody, make it up to them somehow.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
right?
100%.
You know, though, that's I'll go as far as saying, you know, that's really kind of always been branded as like the punk ethos. You know, it's like you take care of the bands coming in from out of town, you make sure they can make it to the next town, you know. They'll do the same for you when you go through their town. You know, I give a lot of advice to young bands. I go, hey man, do host bands from neighboring towns. You know, you're trying to get gigs, and you're trying to, and the thing is, you can sit here and play in your own town and circularly until, you know, you've dug yourself a hole, or you can do the first thing you should be doing once you've got your sea legs, is start talking to bands in Portland and Vancouver and Idaho and all these places. And you know where I got that mentality from was from fanzines in the early 80s, you know, because I used to be a real junkie about the whole classified section, you know, and that's where you'd find people from other towns, you know, wanting to do shows. And I think even though we have the internet and all the things it can do, I think what I've noticed, and that's a big part of why we do this podcast, is that it glosses over a lot of these little nuances that you learned, Vic, and I know I have, by, like, for instance, touring pre-internet, you know. And the thing is, there's a lot of fundamentals that you can pick up from that you can apply to this day, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's why when, you know, I knew you'd be a great guest to have on, because your perspective is not something that everyone. I realize that our perspective are not commonplace anymore. You know, they're not. We're not the.
That what made that 81 hardcore scene so special wasn't just the bands and the music. It was the fact that everybody was kind of communally setting this thing up on their own, right?
Yeah.
You know, we put on shows in Chicago. Paul Mahern put on shows in Indianapolis. You know, Bob put on shows in Minneapolis, right? Like the Dead Kennedys, DOA, Black Flag, MDC. These guys had lists of people that you would contact. They would pass it to you. You would follow the same route, playing the same clubs or playing the same bowling alleys or the VFW hall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there was this thing was about, you know, you were building a community and you were operating with that degree of integrity that you needed to do to make that work, right? If anybody had been a ripoff artist in that scene, people knew it right away. And there were bands that weren't particularly great about this stuff. There were bands that wanted to be, you know, big ass rock stars and started copping that attitude way before they could have. But like, for the most part, you know, I still admire were people I admired back then. I mean, I really, as businessmen, you know, Ian Mackay and Jello Biafra, these are tremendous businessmen because they're tremendous people. They tell you what they're going to do, and then they do it. And they don't, there's not a lot of drama involved. And that's the way you want to operate. Drama.
Yep. And we have kind of emphasized this on a bunch of our episodes, is that this industry, as big as it is, it's worldwide, blah, 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 it's actually pretty small. So if you fuck somebody over, other people are going to hear about it. If you stiff a band when they're on tour, guess what? Everybody's going to know. So you're not going to last long if you're being a dick.
Yeah, that's right. And you can, like you were just saying, Ian, you can tell a band, hey man, we just didn't pull anybody in tonight. I know I told you I was going to pay you $500, but I've got $2.
Yeah.
Right.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Joel, go ahead.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because I've never been in a band, so I watched my sister do it and I was very jealous. I just didn't have the balls to do it. So I always look up to every band I work with. I'm like, damn, someday when I'm 90, I'm going to get up there and play something. Are there any facets of being in a band that maybe you think are overlooked or not talked about enough that maybe you can share with our audience? Maybe somebody who's never been in a band before.
Yeah, I would say empathy is a big one, right? Like, there's a lot of guys that probably wouldn't say what I said to you, which is that I feel like part of the joy of this is figuring out how to play with the other guys. Like, there's some musicians I know that they have a vision in their head. They hear it. They want it repeated exactly that way when they play. Like, you could move guys into position. You might as well hire an orchestra, right? Because but I don't find that to be, I think you miss out a lot if you do that. I always felt, I told my daughter this when she, against my best wishes, decided she was going to become a musician. I said, well, you've got a 3-step process here, dear. Like, number one, you got to master your instrument. Number two, you have to master playing with other people, because that is a skill, and you're never going to get through that if you're dogmatic about what you want, and the way that you represent what you want is authoritarian. And besides, you miss out. It's the give and take of this. These other people, when you play, they're going to bring something to the party you weren't expecting, and it's going to be great. So you want to listen. And then the third step is you have to learn how to play with an audience, right? And those are the 3 steps for a musician: mastery of your instrument, mastery of playing with other people, and mastery of playing in front of an audience. At that point, you're going to be a musician if you follow the 3-step program.
That's awesome. You said you tried to discourage your daughter from being a musician. Why?
Well, it's a tough business. It's a casino business.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, like, young men, I was certainly guilty of this. They have a kind of an arrogance about the thing that they're doing. Like, I saw a band the other day. They were really good. I saw them up at Daryl's here in Shoreline in Seattle. They were a really good band, but they were frickin' cocky, and they did the thing that I think is really bad for a young band. So they're the opener, and they played for like an hour and 15 minutes. I'm like, do your 20 minutes, impress everybody, and then get off stage.
Yeah, that's a no-no.
Yeah, because the headliner had come from Ohio, and like I felt like that was disrespectful, man. You just don't, right?
Yeah, absolutely. By the time the headliner goes on, most of the people leave, and
but I didn't want Sophie to be a musician, not because I don't love music. I love music, but as a profession, it's a difficult profession. Even if you're successful, it's a difficult profession, right? So Joe Principi, who plays in Dead Ending with me, he's a very successful musician. He plays in Rise Against. Well, they're a big band, but how does Joe make his money? He goes on the road for 230 days a year. Yeah. He has 3 kids, man. Like, and so then the thing about being a musician is, when you're in your 20s, it's easy and it's great. You can sleep on people's floors. You can sleep on a rock in a state park. It doesn't matter. When you're 40, that's not the case, right? Yeah. And when you're 50 and 60, I saw the Buzzcocks right before Pete Shelley died. They played at Numos here in Seattle, and Steven Severin, who owns the club, was like, well, I know you're a fan. Why don't you come down and we'll hang out with those guys? So I did. And Pete Shelley just looked like he wanted to die. He was in his 60s, and he just was miserable. He didn't want to be out on the road touring. He probably wasn't well. And, he didn't want to be touring, but that's how he makes his money, right? So that's what he had to do. That was the only skill he had. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword for you as a musician, even if you're successful, right? Like, you're going to be on the road the rest of your life. It's a nights and weekends thing. It's a holidays thing. Everybody else is getting Thanksgiving and Christmas off, and you're not, man. Yeah. Right. So like, it's a nights and weekends thing. And so you have to understand you're going to be sacrificing some things in life for this lifestyle, tough lifestyle. As you get older, in particular, it's a very tough lifestyle.
And I would imagine too that to go along with the physical demands of it and the time demands, that it's kind of scary because you are vulnerable. You're up on a stage, everybody's watching you. You're putting something out there that you've spent time crafting, working on. And that's part of the excitement of a live show. Are they going to like this? I'm guessing, like, as someone who's not in a band, that's part of what I am interested in. Like, oh, a new band, like, and then they blow me away. And there's just like this give and take between the audience and what somebody has created. It's really a cool thing, but it's got to be scary, I'm guessing.
Well, and also the audience is variable and changeable, right? And your muse isn't, right? Like, so one thing about being a musician is inherently your muse is going to orient itself in a direction, and you can be very good at that, right? Like I'm pretty good at writing angry protest songs, but I don't have a lot of universality and dimension to what I do. I can't pull off love ballads, right? So you're going to be in this space where if the audience changes or the audience taste changes, you may not be able to adapt to it, right? And that's the vulnerability part more than anything else. Is like, hey, he was big in the 70s, right? Like, well, Rick Springfield, where are you now, bro? Like, I mean, that's the nature of the business, and that can be very disconcerting, because especially if your one skill is playing guitar and you don't have any other skill, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. You're not going to be able to adapt to that very easily.
Yeah. I think of the Ricky Nelson song "Garden Party."
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It's a depressing song.
Yeah,
he was a good actor, so
yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway,
absolutely.
Well,
sorry, go ahead, Ian.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like we've taken up more than enough time with you. We don't want to take your entire evening.
I did want to say though.
Yeah.
I found your perspective. I mean, like, I obviously can align with your perspective because I'm an old early 80s punk guy too, but I feel like a lot of the stuff that you experience and that the way you're describing it now, I feel like so much of that still applies to and in fact gets overlooked because of the internet and all that. So I really appreciate your time and your insight, Vic.
You bet. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on your show. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for doing it. It was an honor to have you on. Make sure.
Oh yeah, what do you got coming up?
Well,
buy this record.
We get a show up there. We got to get a show up in Bellingham.
We'll get you taken care of.
Yeah. I would love to play up there again. There's so many great bands up there. I mean, I really love Disaster Queen. I think they're a phenomenal band. I love Proud Failures. Like,
and you're playing the show in September with Box Cutter from up here.
Box Cutter. That's right. We're playing over in Bremerton. We just played in Bremerton last week. But yeah, nice. we're playing this show with Box Cutter. Great band. We Redshift played with them a lot. So yeah, I mean, there's so many great bands up in Bellingham. It's almost like this undiscovered punk oasis in the Northwest. Man, there's a lot of good music in Bellingham.
It is. And yeah, we just had that big punk fest up here. We've got another punk metal fest this weekend at Makeshift. I think, unless something changed.
I kind of feel like Bellingham right now is like where
Olympia was.
Yeah, thank you. Well said. Exactly. So, Bellingham's, that's fun. It's exciting. I like seeing this because what happens when you're in a town where the structure, I call it the structure, where the typical play the clubs, the club hierarchy, all that stuff, it gets stifling, and I feel like you can just be caught in that little rat race and not really be doing stuff that like feeds you, you know what I mean? But then I hear about bands doing, festivals outdoors and with a bunch of other bands, or playing like an art gallery, and and I find that a lot of bands are getting like a big thrills out of that. That's good.
Back to the Future, man. Article.
Yeah.
Played an art gallery in 1983. So there you go.
There
Hell
you go,
yeah.
dude.
Awesome.
You summarized it perfectly.
Yep. All right. Vic, thank you so much. It was wonderful to talk to you, and I promise you we'll get a show dialed in up here.
Oh, you know me, Ian. I'm always glad to come up and play in Bellingham.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot for your
All
time.
right, thanks, Vic.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Oops.
Well, dude,
That was awesome.
wasn't that awesome?
That was really cool. I could probably just keep going asking Vic a million questions.
Yeah, me too. Because
maybe we'll do a part 2 if he wants to do that.
I would love to. Me too. Like he has I was hoping, it was exactly what I was not exact. It was what I was hoping would happen.
Mm-hmm.
His perspective can't, it doesn't grow on trees and it isn't on shelves. You know what I mean? You can't just get it. And that insight of his, there's a lot to offer there for people that are, wanting to do what he's doing or already in the process of doing, releasing your own music, doing your own thing.
Yep.
There's a lot of really, I loved his insight because it was really valuable. And also it was fun to, see what, like, one of my, early 80s hardcore heroes, what he's done with his life and music. Yeah, super cool, man.
Still playing shows. He's got this show coming up September 5th and 6th at the Charleston in Bremerton, playing with the Disorderlies, awesome Seattle band, Box Cutter from up here in Bellingham. Obviously, Vic Bondi and his Issues are playing. The Dribble Turds, Prophets, Seize the Means. Check that show out. And make sure you pick up this new album on Alternative Tentacles, Vic Bondi and his Issues. It sounds really fucking good. I'm not gonna lie. It sounds great.
It really does. It's and I love the how he, stylistically it's got some good variety to it. It's got, like in the pocket rock and roll. It's got punk rock, hardcore punk. Yeah, it's super cool.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad we got to do that. I love that story where you interviewed him back in 83, 84, and here we are. That's so crazy to me.
I mean,
that's awesome.
I don't want to make it sound like I interviewed him, but
no, but you were there. Yeah.
There was luckily there were older people to handle the tough stuff. I remember, I think I was in the van, blabbering to another member of the band about who knows what. And here we are 43 years later blabbering to people in bands, right?
That's
Exactly.
awesome.
Only, I was probably also wondering how I was going to get my hands on beer at that. That was a big thing,
Less of
I
a
don't know
worry.
what it was about punk shows in the early 80s, but beer had to be part of it. So, but yeah.
That was fun.
Dude, this was so cool because now we got to straight up interview him. And like I said, it's just, he brings something, a certain kind of experience that just, isn't easily obtained. You don't really easily come across it. It comes out through, in his music, but it was nice to be able to hear him actually, explain, kind of summarize his experience, I guess. Yeah.
No.
Cool, dude.
That was really cool. All right. Well, we got an awesome guest next week as well.
We do. Another, I guess, venture into the life of a working musician, and who's also a tattoo artist, a really, well-established, excellent style of his own, as far as his tattoo work goes. He's a crushing fucking death metal vocalist, really good at that. And he's a
And
hell
one
of
of
a dad too. You know, if you follow.
and one of the nicest fucking people you could ever meet.
Oh
Like,
man, dude.
yeah, it's
Lance,
crazy.
Lance Netherland. We should probably say
I was
his
gonna
name.
say, wait, we didn't even
We should probably say his name. Lance Netherland. And if you know him, you know what we're talking about. And if
Yep.
you don't, you'll
find out.
know what we're talking about when you see him on our podcast.
I'm specifically interested in, and I don't know if this is stupid or not, but I'm interested in like the intersection between tattooing and music, and specifically like metal, and like those two worlds seem very connected, similar to like when we had Adrian on, we were talking about skating and music. That it seems like a kind of similar conversation.
Oh,
and
yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be great to like hear him actually speak to that. Because I mean, I think we all know that those two worlds are very intertwined, but seldom do you get to hear people actually tell you, you know, why and why it is for them. You know, like I said, you know, he's an all-around great dude, and he balances some really rad shit. And you know, so I'm interested in hearing more about that. Oh, and you know, the other thing I was going to say is he's also you know, as an independent band managing themselves, he's booked their tours, and they've played in Europe, like France, twice already. So you know, and they're going again. So like they're doing shit. So be great to talk to them about that.
Yep, like Vic said, working musician, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like not everybody gets to be in fucking Blink-182 and just be in a band and not have to fucking worry about anything else. You gotta balance shit.
But here's the thing. It's important to point out those bands are only the 5% of they only represent the upper 5%. They're only the crust. You know, it's like the rest of it, the world wouldn't exist without the 95% of the people that slug it out every day, you know. And so that's we had a great guest today, you know, with Vic telling us, you know, about being a working musician. I think Lance is going to be great as well. Yeah, this is good stuff because it takes you into the reality of you know, the back end of all these things, because we mostly just see these people on stages and
even with my stupid example of Blink-182, I know they busted their ass touring in a van for many years.
Yeah, it's not about that though.
No,
we're not trying to say they're like you know, Celine Dion or something. But the point is, they are, whether you know, whether anybody wants to use this term or not, they are privileged in the way that they do sit in a comfortable spot in the you know, the whole family tree of it all, and you know, good for them. But along with their success and the way they did it, there's hundreds of thousands of other bands that also do the same way, and they may or may, you know, they're going to see different degrees of success or not, and everybody's angle is kind of important to be considered here, you know. Whether you did a band for 3 years and said fuck it, man, just can't do this anymore, or you've been in a band for 20 years and you've been touring, but you're just, you know, you guys are just kind of breaking even, whatever. All that goes into the jumbo, into the gum. Yeah, sorry, jumbo.
I was like, I don't know what that means, but I'm going with it.
No,
cool.
You know, it all goes into the pot.
Yep. And that's why we do this. We want to bring a bunch of different perspectives. Stoked that we had Vic today. That, you know,
dude,
that was awesome. Like, honestly, that was really cool.
I feel very fortunate to get to do this, for sure.
All right, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe Backstage with Ian and Joel on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Substack, and goddamn, wherever you find your audio podcasts. Make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.